what does the presence at the plate have to be for your offense to get the best possible result against him, knowing that he'll make some adjustments?
I think with Garrett, he likes to pitch at the top of the zone. There's going to be velocity, and I think for us just to, just know where the top of the zone is, and try to get into good counts, and be disciplined and expect a good pitch to hit.
Hey, Dave. When you watched Jack in Game 5 against the Mets and then Jack in Game 1 of this series, what were the biggest differences that you saw that, changed the level of success he had in those two games?
I think in Game 5 he was under the weather. I know he was. He was under the weather. He was kind of on day 3 of something, so he just didn't have the strength. Certainly the stuff speaks to that. In Game 1, he was rested and felt good and came out and threw a good ball game. So today, it's regular rest. He's in good spirits, very focused. He feels good health-wise, and we'll see how it goes. But I expect him to pitch well tonight.
Mike?
Dave, looking at the interference play with Mookie last night, do you think your players worry about their safety here?
No, I don't think so. And if there's one player I don't think that is worried, it'd be Mookie, given that he played a lot of games in this ballpark. It was just an unfortunate circumstance. I'm glad it was dealt with the right way, and we can just move on to tonight.
Well, I was just going to follow up with that. As far as dealt with the right way, do you think they struck the appropriate measure?
I think so. As I understand it, they got booted, and we didn't need them to be here, so they refunded their tickets. So that's perfect, right?
Go to Barry, then Jim.
Hey, Doc. So globally, when did this whole notion of high leverage and low leverage relievers start kicking in? I don't remember it any earlier than this year, and I had long talks with Torey Lovello about it this year. What's your take on all that?
Barry, I think it's actually, I think you're very aware of it. I think it's just more like most things now. There's names to things, right? And I'm sure Bruce Bochy back in the 80s had relievers that he trusted and guys that he didn't trust as much. And so he used them in different situations. So I think now, to quantify things or give things a name, I guess high and low leverage just kind of speaks to that.
So, to that point, Bochy had, Trevor. Most teams had a stud closer, and then the rest of their bullpen fell in line behind that, whether they were set-up guys or whatever they did. Now the notion of a high-level closer seems to have dissipated. Nobody can stay in the job for that long. You had Kenley for a long time, but since then you've had kind of like a rotation of closers. What's happened with that?
Yeah. So, starting pitching back in the day, even as far as 20 years ago, went deeper in the game. So you didn't need as many relievers, number one. And so what happened with Kenley? He's with the Red Sox. It's a different roster. I do like the fact that we have different guys that have finished games because it kind of protects against usage, a guy being down, different part of the lineup, lefties, righties, and it's worked out well for us as far as, games at the end of the innings at the end of a game, how our success rate.
And just one last one on this. You as a manager, would you rather have a relief staff that could really, you could sock in and out of anything, that all these guys could do whatever you needed them to do in any circumstances than what you have now?
Well, I would argue, Barry, that our guys can do whatever I ask of them, and I've shown that, pitching them in the middle of the game, late in games, versus lefties, versus righties, and so I think I'm afforded with the luxury of having my cake and eating it.
I'm going to Jim on your right, Dave. Jim Hill.
Skipper, Jim Hill, KKL9 News. Your players have you to calm them down in moments like this. Who calms you down, or how do you keep your cool, calm, and collectiveness in these moments where it's, we could win the whole thing tonight?
I have a good poker face. I think when I expend all my energy on the players and kind of the process of how you get through a game, prepare for a game, that's as much bandwidth as I can handle. So, yeah, I don't know who keeps me calm, Jimmy.
Go to Clinton, second row on your left, Dave.
Doc, moving back to last night, is there any, after a night of sleep, where you say last night might have changed that decision, or conversely, one where you said we actually did that well, even though there was a loss?
I think the question, if I could foresee the future, I would do some things different, right? Given your question, an honest answer is I wouldn't have. I wish the ball wouldn't have popped out of Gavin's glove, the Volpe double. I wish we could have kept it so Weaver would have had to stay in the game. But as far as kind of leverage and how we use guys, what Landon Knack did for us, I don't think we could have asked anything more of 4 innings and given up 1 run. I don't think any relievers could have done the same thing, or we could have asked for more. I liked Hudson versus Volpe right there. On pitch number 20, he just didn't make a pitch, and Volpe, you got to give him credit. So I really wouldn't have done anything different. So I think right now we're in a good spot. We're in a great spot, and our focus is just to win a game tonight.
Bill Plaschke in the third row.
Yeah, Doc, you really seem to identify with this team. Do they remind you of you?
They do. They're just more talented, but they do remind me of me. I had the toughness, but I didn't have the talent of Mookie Betts. But, yeah, I think so. And I think that's the way it should be.
Fourth row.
I love people that fight. And I don't know if it's my football background, but, the playoffs, as I've said many times, it's a fight. It's a scrap. It's a dog fight. It has to be that way. Yeah.
Fourth row on your right, Andy.
Hey, Dave. You've talked a lot over the years just about the closeness of the bond with the 04 team in Boston. Over the past, 24 hours, I'm just curious if any of those fellows have reached out to you to suggest nipping this thing in the bud and protecting that group's place in history.
You know what? No, they haven't. We are still very close, but I haven't gotten those texts, Andy. And that's more incentive for me. So thank you for that. Yeah, there's one comeback. There's one comeback, and that's all there needs.
Yeah, I'm just curious if getting a message like that would be uplifting or very irritating at this time.
Maybe a little bit of both, like most things, right?
Good. Jason and Tyler.
Dave, do you ever look at the names of the starting pitchers that you have on the IL and ask yourself, how did we ever get to the World Series? And B, do you ever think about what might have been this week?
A little bit. But I try to keep that to a small group of people and make sure the players don't hear that. But it's crazy. I mean, our roster is constructed so well, so deep. Jason, it's like, but we've been on teams where it's like the best teams we had in the optimum situations, and we didn't, win the last game of the season. And so this is a different team, a very close-knit team, a very talented team. But again, we have guys that I feel very confident that can get 27 outs, that can prevent runs, and I feel we can score more than them. And so that's kind of what it comes down to. But I don't let my mind go there too far because, yeah, to have Clayton, Glasnow, May, Emmett Sheehan, all those guys, it'd be fun to have. Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, what if I told you this spring training that you'd lose all those guys between then and now? Did you know you had enough depth to still do this?
Did I know? No, I didn't. Because to be quite honest, I didn't know who Ben Casparius was at the start of the season. So to that point, and Edgardo Henriquez, who pitched big innings for us in the DS and CS. So I didn't know those guys. So I would say probably not.
Tyler back there.
Yeah, Dave, and you didn't have Jack Flaherty either. And when you think about the moves you made at the deadline with Flaherty and Edman and Kopech, did you know at the time that they would end up having the impact that they've had, and what was your initial reaction to getting those guys?
I did know they would have this impact, and they just made complete sense for our roster. Miggy was going through some things physically, so to have Tommy be able to be a piece of that made complete sense. The switch bat, Jack being a veteran, kind of really on the come as far as the performance and the history, the experience was an easy sell to kind of stabilize a starting staff that wasn't stable. And then to have Kopech, a neutral guy with a big arm, just feeling like you can get some more out of them in a different environment. And so, yeah, our front office, Andrew and the guys, they nailed it.
Standing in diagonal. Ed?
Hi, Dave. Being at 3 wins tonight, is it the same as 3 wins against Tampa? Going into this emotionally, intellectually for you, is it the same as it was the first time?
As far as 2020, you know what? I think I don't know, Ed. I think it's hard to remember exactly what mind state I was in that point, and a very forgettable game. But I think that right now, we're in a good space to finish things off tonight. Certainly some of the same cast of characters, but it's still a different team. Yeah, we're in the bubble. This is we're obviously in Yankee Stadium, so it's a little bit different in that sense too.
Up front on your left, Dave.
Dave, we've heard you said close-knit. We've heard the players say that, cohesive. Give us some insight into these watch parties that you had during the days off between the end of the regular season and the start of the DS, and the same with the World Series, and the dinners that you guys have had, the team dinners while you've been traveling, and how that's brought this team together.
I think, well, you said it. There's watch parties. They had dinners. They take the same flight. And what it is it's just, I think that the crux, they've sacrificed time with their loved ones to be together. And so, which has made this team more together, right? Closer. And so that's what they've done on their own. And they've just bonded. It's really cool to see. Yeah.
Third row on your right, Fabian.
Yeah, Dave, over the years, it seems like your offense has kind of thrived when it comes to facing bullpens, especially seeing them over the course of a series and start taking advantage of that. I think you guys have only scored 1 run off their bullpen since game 1. Is there anything that you've sort of seen from your guys' at-bats, or maybe how they've kind of game planned against you guys as a bullpen?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I think we've done a really nice job with the starters. Unfortunately, with the pen, I just don't think that we are we're certainly not having the best at bats. I think that there's a lot of 3-2 chase. There's a lot of 2, pitcher behind, spin, chase, that we could get more count leverage. I don't know the reason behind it, but typically we are much better. Certainly seeing arms out of the pen, we're better. So I just see us kind of breaking out tonight. I really do. I mean, and obviously Garrett's a tough customer, but I just, we got to have good at bats against him, and we've seen a lot of these guys many times.
And then Max was red hot during the CS. I don't think he has a hit this series. What have you sort of seen out of his at-bats? And is that one of those things where, obviously he's a guy who kind of swings things for your line? How important is that for you guys going forward?
It's important. I think Max is getting a little too quick. I think he's getting a little too jumpy. I think he's in between at times. So I think he's going to kind of he's working on some mechanical things going into tonight's game that I hope will give him some clarity, some confidence, but he's not too far away from really performing well. So he just needs to again, stay in the zone, and that's his superpower, to swing at strikes and take balls. And if he can do that, then, we'll create some stress for Garrett.
Fifth row on your right, Dave.
Hey, Dave. What are the advantages and disadvantages of Jack facing the Yankees twice in this series?
The advantages are he gets to see in real time how they're responding to his pitches. The disadvantage is they can see and appreciate the ball coming out of his hand and all of his different pitches. So then it just comes down to execution and how you sequence your pitches. So right now it's sort of an open book, and now it's about execution. And I feel the same way, us versus Garrett Cole.
A couple more. Third row on your left.
Yeah, Doc, following up on the cohesiveness and closeness of the roster, are there particular factors that have contributed to that, and how does it manifest itself when you're on the field?
I think that our guys were intentional about spending more time together. I think that with injuries, of not giving yourself an excuse not to win 11 games in October, I think was a part of it. Yeah, so I think that does it manifest? I just think that when you are around people that you care about, you believe in, you're just better collectively. And yeah, I mean, I just really believe that. I know it's not tangible, but I believe it is.
Was there kind of an us against the world vibe there at one point with all the guys going down?
There still is. Okay. There still is. We're not done yet. We're still against you, Jim.
We'll do two more. Ben in the back and Yvonne up front here.